welcome to another episode of Inside CKP. I am your host, Jeremy Como. Joining me today is Diane Reed. Welcome, Diane. Thank you for coming on.
Well, thank you for having me.
Oh, you're absolutely welcome. And before we get too far, let's pay the bills. This show is brought to you by Chris Kennedy Publishing. If you go to, let's pull up their website while I'm here. If you go to Chris Kennedy Publishing, you can find Diane's book that we're going to talk about today, and many, many others. Science fiction, military science fiction, space odysseys, fantasy, you name it, they've got it. Go check them out. Sign up for the newsletter, and I harp on this on every show. If you want to know what's going on in the world of CKP or any of the authors that you like, sign up for those newsletters, including Diane's, and we'll show you that here in a second. Of course, if you want to support this show and Chris Kennedy Publishing, you can always go to their Patreon, and they have great rewards for their Patreon guests. And of course, you can find all of Chris Kennedy Publishing books on Amazon. And Diane, where can people find you and your stuff?
I've also got an Amazon page. Well, okay, yeah, that's I think, is that the current or is that the old ones? Yeah, that's
think,
with so that'd be the old books. I
okay.
think. Yeah.
Okay, and
yeah, from a couple decades ago.
okay, and then what about your newsletter? Where can they find that?
That can be accessed on my website.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Okay.
And I know that's an odd website. Just DT Reed Author wasn't available as a domain name when I went to get it. So I had to mess around with it a bit.
There you go. And if people want to interact with you a little bit more, where else can they go?
I've got a Patreon.
Okay.
And that's, there we go, Patreon. And just my Facebook page. And it's just a normal Facebook page at this point. I'm under a lot of deadlines right now, so I haven't really. Once I get a couple more books sent off to Chris, then I'll go ahead and set up an author Facebook page.
Okay.
But that's just the normal one right now.
All right. Well, welcome and thank you for coming on today. I appreciate it. We're here for a very special reason because Diane has a new book coming out this Friday, right?
Right. Yeah.
Right. All right. Yeah. Well, give us your elevator pitch for your book.
Okay. Well, this one is the second one in the series, and the first one, which I think you've got the cover for too, is kind of my main character, Akula, who goes by Ku, going through running away from home. He comes from a kind of a traditional culture. Think Native American, although he's not even a native Earthling. Mm-hmm. And but there's kind of a nasty situation. So he decides and he feels like he's destined to become the death demon of his people. And so he's going, I'm out of here. If I'm going to impose myself on anybody, it's going to be the enemy. So he runs away from home, lies about his age, joins the military. In the first book, he goes through basic training and pilot training, and has some kind of interesting challenges along the way. So it's kind of a coming of age. Mountains starts with his military career, and there's a number of battles, and some of the personal baggage mm-hmm. that he was trying to run away from is still kind of hanging on to him, and not letting go. But about 3/4 of the way through the book, he has a rather interesting incident happen. And it's kind of funny. I put it out on my Facebook page and gave my Facebook viewers a choice of what they would like me to read about. And they all said, flames and smoke, what's going on with that fighter on the cover? So I pulled up that chapter, and we'll get to that later. But okay. Yeah, that's, and my younger sister said, well, if you read that chapter, will that be a spoiler? And I said, not really, because there's a lot of really important things that happen while he's on the ground doing the escape and evasion thing. Okay. And so that's what, and Chris told me the other day, this is a longer book than, because I'd ordered a box of them. We're going to have an in-person launch party in a couple of weeks. And so I wanted to see if I could get some books. And this was a little more expensive than when I ordered a box full of the first one.
Uh-huh.
And I said, "Has the price gone up?" He says, "Diane, do you realize how much bigger this book is than the other one?" So yeah, it cost a little more. But I I'm pretty excited about this book. It's got some fairly intense stuff, and I enjoyed the flying sequences. But there's more of his personal life. Having spent 23 years in the military myself, it's a definite lifestyle,
Mm-hmm.
and it affects your personal life, your family life, and everything else. And so that gets woven into it. Things that he's dealing with um, in personal relationships, family relationships, things like that. The baggage from his previous society, and how that impacts his military career and stuff too. So that's all there. It's not just the battles and stuff.
Yeah.
Uh,
So how would you just if you had to put the book in a genre, would it be strict sci-fi, military sci-fi?
I'd
It
call it
sounds
military sci-fi.
okay. That's what I thought.
Yeah,
It didn't sound like
but
what.
there is the fantasy element to it though, because of his culture and
Okay.
the some of the cultural expectations and the baggage that he's carrying with him.
Mhm.
Um, so there's yeah, so there is kind of a fantasy element to it too.
Awesome. So you already kind of mentioned. I always hear from authors, write about what you know, and of course, you put some, all the military aspects of it. Personality wise, is there anything of you or people that you know that you put into the book or into your characters?
I would say if I was going to relate myself to one character the most, it would be Ku's grandmother, who's
Yeah.
kind of his guide, a spiritual guide, I guess. And yet, there is a major character who is in the career field that I had,
Mm-hmm.
and so I drew from a lot of personal experience for. Uh, I was a briefer. I was always in front of generals.
Mm-hmm.
Good morning, sir. This is what's going on out there. And so I remember with one of my friends back in college and doing one of the earlier series, and I had a briefer in that. And one of the friends in our little college writing group says, "Diane, I can see you doing that." And I'm going, "Well, that's what I do."
Mm-hmm.
You know, so, uh, yeah.
So
But
um,
yeah, but
so before we go too far, let's keep the audience on the hook and let them know later on we're going to be doing a giveaway. And we're also going to be doing the reading, but let's give the rules of the giveaway to keep people interested. So it's gonna be as usual. It's gonna be based on the comments. So either whoever is the cleverest, funniest, best questions, whatever. So it's gonna be kind of loosey goosey, but it's gonna come from the comments. So as this audience usually does, they typically play well with others. So uh, you know come on and get, as Yvonne said, free stuff. So uh,
yes.
and I said we're gonna be doing a reading. So do you know what you're gonna be reading for us, Diane?
Yeah, I've got chapter 45. And like I said earlier, people on my website, when I gave them a choice, they all said, "Smoke and flames," "Smoke and flames." So they wanted to know what was happening with it. And so I'm wearing my appropriate
Oh,
t-shirt with the
nice,
word on it.
nice.
So you can see the smoke and flames. And in fact, Chris already sent me a first look at the cover art for book 3, which I'm doing the galleys right now. As a matter of fact, I did errand running this morning and just was able to put in 2 or 3 hours on the galleys just now before we started, and I'll finish that up tomorrow. So I've got to get that back to him ASAP, and then he wants book 4 by the end of the month.
Mm-hmm,
And so I'm probably going to be eating Thanksgiving dinner here at my desk
mm-hmm.
or finishing up that. So
So
yeah, deadlines.
okay, so Emily loves your shirt. Thank you, Emily. Uh, Yvonne, yeah. Yvonne's trying to get a free book. Look, she's gonna be chatting
Yeah,
a little bit.
yeah. And I can tell you how to get the shirts too if you want them. I had one made for my husband too, and he wore it to work today. So
Hey, plug away. Tell people if you if you're selling them or if you're where to get them or what have you.
I got them done through Vistaprint,
Okay.
and I just kind of did this as a prototype just to see how it would work out.
Hmm.
But turns out the T-shirts are actually less expensive than the book. Chris said, and I did get on Amazon the other day and just looked at it, and because it is a much larger book, it is going to be a couple dollars more than the original one was. So, yeah, fat book. So I was kind of surprised. He
Well, so
told me,
how much longer
but
is this book than your first book?
well, the first one is about 470 some odd pages,
Hmm.
and he in his message he says, yeah, he had to readjust the spine on this, and
Hmm.
he said it was laughing at me as it went past 500 pages out to about 576 or something.
Oh
And
wow, yeah.
what I cracked up at his message. So yeah, it's a fat book, but yeah, so the T-shirts are. Thanks, Yvonne. The shenanigans have begun.
Yes, they have arrived. All right.
Anyway, but yeah, I can get T-shirts for people if they want them, and
Yeah.
I think it's I love the art. I was pretty excited about the art, which is why I went ahead and did the shirt.
Well,
So
that's one thing that's always great about CK book covers. They're always
oh
great.
yeah,
I love them. I haven't seen a bad one
yeah,
yet. Well,
yeah. There's some excellent artists out there.
yeah. So let's see. Okay, so let's we kind of talked about the release. Now, you already talked about your character a little bit. What if you had to sum up his his personality or characteristics? What would you say about him? I mean, is he a nice guy? Is he not a nice guy? Brooding? What? How would you describe him?
He's well, the first book did start out as a young adult book, so it still has that kind of a feel to it, although he's older.
Mm-hmm.
When I realized, yeah, there's stuff he's got to do later in the series that he really needs to be older. So I bumped his age. The mandatory age for a young adult is 16. So I
Mm-hmm.
bumped him up to just a few months shy of 20. And he's supposed to, in their culture, he's supposed to be 20 to legally be conscripted. So he lies about his age and gets some criminal to adjust his birth certificate and his pilot's license so he can try to fake out the recruiters. And of course, they know what's going on, but but they take him anyway. Snarky.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he's kind of snarky, and that's kind of a defense mechanism. He grew up in a kind of an abusive situation, so that's. Um, but he's basically a nice guy. Um, but he's like a typical fighter pilot. He's very competitive,
Mm-hmm.
and I had fun with his snark. So he always could come up with the best answers, on the spot. It's the kind of thing where you really wish. I mean, you get the good answer 2 or 3 hours, or maybe 2 or 3 days later, to somebody who mouths off, and he's got it. He's right there. So I kind of had fun with that. He's basically a nice guy, but he has his moments. He does have some anger issues, which again kind of comes from his past, and he has to learn to deal with that later on through the course of the books. So
Awesome. So we've already got questions coming in from the crowd, and Yvonne wants to know what your military background is.
I was Air Force, and I went the dark side. I was an officer, retired as a lieutenant colonel,
Mm-hmm.
um, but spent career field doing intel, which is not nearly as interesting as people think.
Mm-hmm.
At least I was what was called intel applications, which meant basically I took all the information that the people out there doing the interesting stuff sent into us, and then compiled it for the generals, either briefing books. In Korea, we built briefing books and took them to the command section, and our colonel would come up to the shop. I stood the watch there, and we'd brief off of wall maps, and this is going on here, and this is going on there, stuff like that. And I was there just before the Seoul Olympics. So I PCSed back to the States in 88.
Okay.
3 weeks before the Seoul Olympics started, which was really frustrating after watching the country gear up all year.
Oh, yeah.
And then and then I was at Wright-Patterson in Ohio, and I was there through Desert Storm. Did my first deployment to Bosnia a couple of years after the accords were signed. Things were still a little dicey, but that was really interesting because I was just outside Sarajevo, and I was there with the stabilization forces, S4. And so I was briefing the commander of S4 every morning. And it was 36 nationalities just at the little base outside Sarajevo. So I had to learn to speak very slowly and very distinctly and clearly, because most of that command staff, English was third, fourth, maybe a fifth language.
Oh, wow.
And I naturally kind of talk fast, as you can see. So I had to really learn to slow down. But there was one day I was walking across the compound, and here came the French general who was the vice commander, and the chief of staff was German. And so here comes this French general across the compound, going, "Oh, bonjour, sir," and he says, and I was a captain at that point. I was single, so it was my maiden name. He says, "Oh, Captain Thornley, you are the only one we can understand."
Yeah.
So I guess I was, the only one speaking slowly enough. But that was really an interesting tour of duty, deployment.
Mm-hmm.
And then later on, I was in northern Italy to support the Kosovo operations.
Mm-hmm.
And they threw me into the targeting section, and I had never done that. So it was education by fire hose, learning to build the targeting folders and stuff like that. And we worked hard, but we played hard. It was northern Italy. And so we'd hop the train on weekends and go out to Venice or Florence or something like that, Yeah, so we worked hard, but we played hard, and I still joke about that. And I was major by then, and they put me in 06 Fulbright Colonel quarters. Nice. So I still joke about that being my winter vacation to northern Italy, all expenses paid by the U.S. Air Force.
Yeah.
And
That's
yeah,
nice.
we did work hard, but we played hard.
So do you?
And then I ended up.
Oh, go ahead.
Excuse me. Go ahead.
Do you speak any other languages besides English, or?
I picked up, while I was in Korea, I picked up enough Korean to be polite. I can still say hello, annyeonghaseyo.
Mm-hmm.
And that was how many years ago?
Yeah.
I had a couple of years of French in college, but by the time I got to use it in Bosnia, I'd forgotten most of it. I did have a French roommate, and so we kind of swapped language lessons. Her English was far better than my French. But we kind of traded interesting little phrases and stuff like that, and she was fun. She was cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was. Oh, hi, Ken. And my brother-in-law. Yeah, Italy was really interesting.
Yeah, with me, I have two fluent French-speaking parents, and I always
Wow.
I tell people I almost flunked it in high school. I know how to curse and count, and that's about it. And it,
The first words of German I learned were courtesy of one of my friends in junior high that I used to go horseback riding with. And when she'd get angry at her horse, she'd cuss him out in German. And this was in junior high. And I was stupid enough to ask her, "Susan, what does that mean?" And she'd tell me. And so here I am in Bosnia, and we had this German driver, the general's driver, and he worked in the motor pool and stuff too. And so one of the other American guys I worked with said, "Hey, Marco, I'd like to learn some German." And Marco starts using some of these words. And I'm going, Marco, I know what that means. Trust me, sir, you don't learn that kind of German. So, but yeah, so just a tidbit of German. And unfortunately, while I was in Iraq, I really didn't have opportunity to pick up any Arabic or Farsi or any of the other languages in the area. They kept me inside the wire.
Yeah.
All
right. So we have
the base that
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
The base that Ku gets deployed to in book 3, I kind of based on Balad.
Oh,
I
cool.
spent a little bit of time at Balad, except that we didn't have volcanoes in Balad,
Yeah,
which they do at the base in book 3. So,
that's awesome. So we got some questions from the crowd. So how are you popping out so many books? It sounds like you're just shotgunning them out.
well, this is okay. Backstory. I've been working on this series for 12 years,
Oh,
ever
wow.
since I retired from the Air Force. And they've kind of evolved over time. Like I say, the first one started out as young adult and then um, advanced into something else. And so this has kind of grown over the years. And I had no, and I am a slow writer, and I had spent a lot of time working for David Farland as an editor.
Mm,
And so he'd send me a lot of his students' work. And so I spent a lot of time doing that. And so writing was just kind of something, half the day would be editing for Dave and the other half would be writing. And so over the years, I had gotten, it was originally going to be a 5-book series. And I was working on book 4 and had no intention of even starting to try to market it or something until I was well into book 5, because I am a slow writer. And I
mm,
wanted to be able to give a lot more attention to the marketing, the promotion, et cetera, et cetera. And so last year at Superstars, I ended up assisting Marta Sprout at the appointments table. She and I were there, and they had a couple of issues come up. And at one point, one day, and I was kind of the person who got the people to, when they'd come to the table and say, "I've got appointment with so and so at such and such a time." I was usually the one who would get them into their appointment. Well, at one point, I was told, when Mr. Kennedy's current appointment comes out, don't send the next one in, because we may need to move him to a different room. So, so I thought, well, while we're waiting for an answer from the officers in charge, I'll just stand and chat with him. I might as well. And so I just kind of, and so we had just a brief little conversation, and I just mentioned, yeah, I'm a veteran and I'm working on a series, yada yada, and it didn't go much farther than that, because then they said, yeah, he can stay in his room. So I went ahead and sent in his next appointment, and he only had a couple left. So when I went in at the end to say, okay, that's all for today, you're free to go, he said, well, do you have a few minutes? And I said, sure. So he said, well, come on in and let's talk. And he gave me the full, and like I say, I had not gone prepared to pitch, no intention or
mm.
plan of pitching to anybody. Um, and maybe it's a good thing, because if I'd had a planned pitch, I probably would have frozen up.
Yeah.
But as it was, he gave me the full 10 minutes, just like, the scheduled appointments, and we just had a chit chat.
Hmm.
And I told him the whole story arc. And when I told him how long book 3, because he asked me, well, how many words are the books? And so I told him, and when I told him how long book 3 was, he kind of went, oh, well, that's kind of longer than what I usually do. And then he kind of grinned and he said, would you rather get paid for 1 book or 2? Okay, no brainer.
Yeah, yeah.
So what I'm working on right now, the galleys of book 3 was formerly the first half of the original book 3, and the book 4 that I will be turning into him at the end of the month is the second half of the original book 3.
That's
And
awesome.
they will, yeah. So I'm having to flesh them out a little bit, because when I split it, it was a little shorter than what his ideal word count is. So I got book 3 up to about 100,000 words, and I'm right now with book 4. I'm at about 93, something like that, and I've got about one more third of that left to do on the heavy revisions. So I'll be able to flesh that out. So what's now books 5 and 6. Book 5 is probably about half written, and I just kind of put that on hold. And then book 6, I've written a few scenes from a workshop that I did with Dave
Mm.
Farland a couple of years ago, and he had us write scenes for different genres and stuff like that. So I thought, okay, I'll just write something that I can use, in the future books. So I've got that, and the outline is forming up really well. And but Chris is going to give me, thankfully, more time once I get these book 4 turned in to write those, because they are going to take a little more time to develop. But I do know what the story arc is. I know where it's, where it's going to end, stuff like that. And at the end of our conversation, he just said, well, why don't you go ahead and send me the full manuscript of the first book? And I just kind of picked my jaw up the floor, because every other editor I've ever dealt with has said, first 50 pages or first 2 or 3 chapters.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. And that was in February last year. And I knew I needed to do a few touch. I'm talking too fast. Touch ups on that one. So it was a couple of weeks later that I sent it off. And then in May, Friday the 13th, no less, I get an email from him saying, if that book is still available, I'd like to take it in the series.
Awesome.
I love Friday the 13th.
Mm-hmm. It's not bad luck.
Send it off to him. Yeah.
Wait,
So
so
send it off, and pardon, go ahead.
so how did he know that you were a writer and had a series? Did I miss that part? How did he know?
Yeah, I just yeah, well, I was just standing there chatting with him in the doorway while we were waiting for the decision. I mentioned that I had a series in progress.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Let's see. We got some comments here from Mr. Frisbee. All right.
Yeah. Thank you, Bill. Well, thank you for popping in.
Yeah.
And I understand the 4 a.m. thing, because I've done that before. Did that a lot during my military career.
So, will there? Oh wait, here's another one. Will there be a map or a world guide?
I can do that if Chris would like to put that in the books. I've got kind of a sketch that I've got tacked up here in front of me. I'm sitting here facing my desk, and I've got a bunch of stuff, my notes and stuff like. Right now, I've got kind of a map of the base that they're stationed at, but there is a star chart, and it's kind of hard when you have to do it in 2 dimensions.
Mm-hmm.
But if Chris wanted to put something like that in the books, I could, give him this very crude sketch and let him turn a really good artist loose on it.
Yeah.
So that'll be up to him. I think he hasn't yet in the first 2 books, but I might,
So let's talk about your writing style. So you've already said that you're a slow writer. What is your process for for writing and getting the story down? Are you a pantser? Are you outliner? Or how do you go about it?
I think I'm kind of some of both. When this series started developing, I wasn't really intending a whole series. I was just thinking, a couple of cute young adult books, fun little space opera young adult books. And then it kind of began to expand, and things got a little more complicated with the story. And eventually, and it kind of, like I said, kind of evolved. And so I've got an outline, but sometimes, from scene to scene, it becomes pantsy.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the characters just kind of take life into their own hands and take off in a new direction. But okay, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So I can follow them around with a mental camcorder and write it down. And it is, I am a very visually oriented person, so I can kind of see what's going on in my mind. I can pretty well visualize the setting, the situation, stuff like that. So I'd say it's kind of a combination overall. And I'll do pre-writing in the evenings. I have my little red notebook, and then this one says revisions for all. So that's the one I'm keeping for the books I'm working on right now. And as a matter of fact, I had that flipped open for the galleys I was working on. There was a technical bit I changed since I had sent it off to Chris, and I thought, yeah, I need to adjust that when I do the galley. So I was just working on that just before we started doing this, and I had recorded it. And so I'll do pre-writing sometimes in the evening, just because ideas will occur then, and so I'll just scroll things down, and so I'll have somewhere to kind of to start. And these days I've had some of Dave's former clients say, can you continue to work with me? And I said, sure, but right now I've got deadlines. So I've got at least one editing job, probably a couple waiting for me, so as soon as I get book 4 turned in. And But right now, I've just had to put the editing on hold until I can get this done.
So do you
In the morning when I sit down, I kind of go back and pick up the threads from
Mhm.
what I was doing the day before, just to get back into the feel of it, and then press forward from there. And it's kind of interesting how sometimes things just kind of pop out of the woodwork.
So you
So
listen to the voices in your head, and sometimes they tell you what to write, you know?
yeah, it's kind of like my characters going, "Hey, hey, don't forget about this. Let
Mhm.
me out, tell my story." So
Yeah, that's a common thread that I see amongst authors is like, yeah, they're telling the story, and then they hear the little voice in their head, and it kind of changes the story a little bit.
yeah, yeah.
Let's see. We got some comments going here. Chris gets 3 books. Period. Dot. The end. Oh well. Well. So how many? Do you know how many books are going to be in the series? Is it 6 or is it going to be more?
6. It'll
6.
be 6 in this series. But at the end of our interview, like I said, it was 5 when I first chatted with him until he decided to split 3. And even at the end of the interview, he said, "Do you have any other ideas you could play with in this universe?" And I said, "Yeah, I can do that." And then he told me about all the other, universes that are going on under
Mhm.
CKP with the 4HU and the salvage and some of the others. And I'm like, yeah. And I think that's really fun that everybody plays in each other's universes. And so I've been reading some of those too. Between, what I get right now, my reading time is quite limited,
Mhm.
but it's really fun to kind of dabble in the other universes too, and see what's there, and see, okay, which one would I be comfortable with maybe throwing a story out to. So, or offering, well, would this work? So,
Well, people. It looks like people are excited to read the books, and sorry, Yvonne. I guess you're going to have to make room in your budget for 3 extra books. So. Uh,
yeah, the 3 and 4 will not be as long. It was funny how Chris was teasing me the other day about how long 2 is. So I assured him, well, 3 and 4 won't be that long. So, so
well, somebody wants to see your board.
my board. It would be easier to just, because I'm at the laptop right here, but I can peel a few things off. Maybe I'm reaching up here. Tear that tape off. Okay, here's, if you can see, this is kind of those crude little star map
Oh, cool.
with the light years and stuff between them.
Back
And
back up
that's
a
the
little bit.
whole,
Back up a little bit, and then put it in front of your face. Yeah,
yeah,
perfect. Perfect. That's cool.
mm,
So
yeah.
do you also like draw characters and stuff to visualize what they look like, or?
Oh, it, you should see what I've got here. There's 2 shelves above my desk here, and I got on Pinterest for a lot of, and so I've got all these little kind of 3 by 3 pictures of various characters, and
Mm-hmm.
they cover. I've got them all taped up here. I remember when Todd Fosdyke did one of his releases, and I don't remember which, but he was talking about how he had pictures of his characters, and I'm going, yes, so he does that. But I've probably got a good dozen of them up here,
Mm-hmm.
just little 3 by 3 or 3 by 4 pictures that I've had. Most of them on Pinterest, and they're
Mm-hmm.
all tacked up here. But it is so much easier to keep your characters in character when you can see their faces and think, yeah. And I mean, even their accents and stuff like that come through. I do have a couple of actors that I've drawn on. Uh, Chad Hemsworth is Ku's friend Mogan, who's a prince. He's the second, so he's the spare, and he's delighted that he's heir to absolutely nothing. And
Mm-hmm.
he takes great pride in that. So his duty was to go off and join the military, and a couple of others. If you want to see what Ku really looks like,
Okay.
with long hair,
Mm-hmm.
give that boy long hair.
Cool.
Um,
Oh yeah, it kind of looks like.
he's a kid I actually know him.
Mm-hmm.
He became the. Ooh, trying to adjust this one from I met him. We were in the same church congregation when he was in high school. And so he became the model for, I'm going to tear something off my board here.
Ken wants a
A
map.
local. Hmm?
Ken wants a map.
Ken wants the map.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll get back to the map in a minute, Ken. Here's,
Back
let
it
me
up.
see if I can get that back for enough to be
Oh, there you go. Oh, that's
a
cool.
little bit. Okay. Yeah, so this was done by a local artist when I thought I was going to be self-pubbing, and this was going to be kind of the promotion poster.
Mm-hmm.
But that's, if I can get, yeah, that's Enrique. There in the middle is Ku. So Ku will always look like him to me. The star map again.
Oh no, I think
Oh no, I think.
I think he's saying he wants one. Like
Oh,
he
he
wants.
wants one
I think that's what he's
in
saying.
the book, Ken.
Yeah.
All
Let's
right,
see.
I have to put my board back to get finished here. So,
Oh, we got a
oh,
slow reader that's only up to chapter 5 here, so they're saying slow down. Uh, let's see.
Chimama is Ku's little, and he calls her Kimmy.
Uh,
And it's actually Timama is a Native American name that means butterfly. So
oh,
sometimes he just calls her Butterfly. Um, yeah, you'll see her through the series. There's some kind of fun interaction between them through the course of the books. And it's a typical big brother, little sister. She's in the first book, she's 8 and he's 19. So there's about 11 years between them. And so he's the typical kind of teasy big brother, and sometimes she teases right back. So,
and well, so, Melissa wants you to come over, come to Salvage. They have they have dessert.
yeah, I've been enjoying some of the salvage books. I've got some of them on audiobook so I can listen while I'm, doing the household domestic engineer stuff. So
All right. Let's see what else. Seen worst maps. That's Yvonne thinks it's a pretty good map. Yeah, I was expecting like a hand drawn thing, and that thing looked pretty good. So
well, it did start out hand drawn, but then I kind of got on the computer and it started out with drawing it out with ruler and stuff like that, and just adding little circles and stuff. And the circles represent an entire star system, not just a planet. So,
awesome.
but anyway, it's kind of named after the major inhabited planet. So.
And I'm very visual too. So like if I know that there is a movie of a book before I read the book, I'll watch the movie so that I can imagine the characters as I'm reading the book. And my brother and I always joke because we were both slow readers, and so we always joked. We watch the movie first, and then we read the book for the DVD extras. And so that way you're never disappointed.
Yeah,
because everybody's always saying, "Oh, the book was so much better." But if you do it in reverse order, I think that's a sweet spot.
I like that for the DVD extras, and that's usually because so much does get cut out of a book when they make a movie of it in most cases.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Let's see. Let's see if there's any funny lines here. This in the book. Oh, so cute. What's the connection with native culture, and how did it inspire you?
I don't know. I've always had an affinity for the Native Americans, but through many years of my childhood, we had a Navajo foster brother, and he was with us from about the age of 8 until high school, and I'm still in touch with him. And he's lives in the Four Corners area, and he's totally bilingual. At first, when he came to live with us, we didn't know if he spoke Navajo or not, and little bit by little found out, discovered that he did. He spoke English with us, and but he ended up with his career with one of the utilities water plant or something in the Four Corners area, and so he being bilingual, he became a translator.
Oh, cool.
between his tribal leadership and the white leadership. But it was I hadn't seen him for years. But when my mom passed away a few years ago, he came and he was one of the pallbearers, and I was so happy to see him.
Oh, that's
And so
nice.
we've just kind of kept in touch ever since. But I've always, like I said, I've always just had a fascination with and an affinity for Native Americans. And I didn't actually. I created a new culture, the Chalka. I mean, there are some aspects of Navajo and some other nations that I've drawn from a little bit, but the Chalka do have they are their own culture, and they have their own language and stuff like that. A lot of the character names are drawn from Native American names. Ku's real name, Akula,
Mhm.
means he looks up, and his grandmother gave him that name. Koda, his best friend, means something about friend who can be trusted or something like that. And he's with Ku through the whole series. So that I kind of chose names kind of based on the character.
That's awesome. So now if people don't know, this is the first time I've met Diane. So I want to learn more about you, and I'm sure the readers do too. When did you start writing, or when did you know you wanted to become a writer?
I think from the time I was quite small. James Owen at Superstars talks about how when he was a child, he made these little books and stapled them together and put them in his red wagon and took them down the street and sold them. And I kind of did the same thing. I didn't have enough audacity
Hmm. Hmm.
to put him in a red wagon and sell them to the neighbors. But I was, even before I knew the alphabet, I was making little books. I was mostly drawing horses.
Hmm.
And because we lived in a city at that point and no place to have a horse, eventually we had a farm, and one of my sisters and I had horses. But I would always drawing horse pictures and making little books and stapling them together. So and then my mom laughs about how I started writing stories from the time I could pick up a pencil. And then that became too slow, and so I adopted my father's ancient college typewriter and taught myself to type like that
Hmm.
when I was
Or you're a two finger.
6
You're
or
a two finger.
7 with 2 fingers. Yeah, I never did learn to type properly because the little ones are too short.
Yeah.
By the time I had a type class in junior high, it was too late to teach the old dog tricks.
Yeah.
So I still don't type correctly, but it was faster than a pushing a pencil.
Hmm. But um, this isn't your first go at publishing novels. You've had previous series, right?
Yeah, I had a trilogy that was published, believe it or not, 25 years ago.
Oh, awesome.
The first one came out in 95. And yeah, it took me 7 years to write that one because I was in college and then I was in the Air Force. And so I got in bits and pieces too. And I separated from active duty. I thought if I'm going to have a writing career, I can't, you know. So I separated into the reserves, and it still took me 3 years to write that one because I started while I was on active duty, and then ended up getting a contract, a 3-book contract, and I won't name the publisher, but it was one of the major New York ones, and got that contract in January of '94, and the editor wanted book 3
Mm.
in by October of '94, and I'm going, oh my gosh, and that was the most research intensive of the 3, and this is going to date me, sound really old. Back in my day, you know, um, this was pre-internet, pre-Google, and so I was having to do all this research. Yeah, I've got other books. There was Jeremy, if you want to put the pictures of those up.
Yep.
Um, yeah, the 3, Ganwell's Child, Echoes of Issel, and Dominion's Reach, and then the other one is an omnibus version, and they're all out there on Amazon. and I'm still getting peanuts of royalties from those even now. But Dominion's Reach, I did basically a master's degree equivalent in central nervous system injuries. And yeah,
Wow.
so it was pretty intense. And all I had was the yellow pages and a phone and a car, and I would either interview people face to face or over the phone. And at this time, I was interestingly enough working as a library assistant for the toxicology department laboratory, the Navy's toxicology laboratory at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base.
Mm-hmm.
And so being a library assistant, I had access to this humongous, the Ohio State University Medical Library.
Oh, wow.
And so I was not only doing research for the Navy toxicology lab, but also for my own book while I was doing that. And I managed to squeak that out in time and turn it in. But it was intense. I was living at my keyboard 12 to 14 hours a day.
Oh, wow.
And that was the main reason why I really didn't want to get into another contract situation until I had this series pretty well written. So
Yeah.
here I am doing it again.
Well, that's awesome.
But
So,
this is more fun. This is more fun. And Chris is so much easier to work with. I'm really, really enjoying being with CKP. And it's just so much of a family feel, and just really, really enjoying working with Chris,
yeah,
as opposed to the situation I was in before.
and that's how what I've heard how Chris picks off authors. It's not just the books; it's the all. Is the author gonna, fit into the family and things like that. And I think he's like 99.9% successful so far. With getting authors that gel together, which is pretty cool. And it is.
Well, I know, just the CKP insiders and stuff, and the book launches and stuff I've watched.
Mhm.
And even though I haven't really been able to participate, I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And I have felt very much at home, even though I haven't been able to really participate on I guess I didn't have a subscription to the YouTube or something for some of the earlier ones, so I couldn't really, throw comments out there. But I always just enjoyed it. And
Yeah.
yeah, this is such a cool group of people.
So have you gotten to meet any of the other authors?
Yeah, I know. I knew a lot of them through Superstars.
Oh,
After
awesome.
that little interview with Chris, I immediately went up to my room and pulled out the laptop and looked up his website and looked at the authors and going, oh my gosh, I know half these people. They're downstairs here at Superstars,
Yeah.
So, and and I met Mike Wyant in person, because he was, came up to the appointments table, and I think he got, Chris picked him up at the same Superstars that he picked me up, and
Mhm.
some of the others. And so I did know, got to know Mike personally there at Superstars last year, and he and I had kind of met on Facebook before that a little bit. But it's really fun, you get to somewhere like Superstars or these other conferences and see each other face to face. And I felt really bad I wasn't able to make it to FactoryCon this year, but that's certainly, on the plan for next year.
I was about to say we'll see you next year. It's fine. We'll all be there.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Uh, so we're getting close to the hour mark. Let's go ahead and give the fans what they came for. We're gonna go ahead and do the reading, and
Okay.
I'm gonna take myself off screen and let you take center stage and let you do that. And then after the reading, then we'll pick some winners and let them. Now, you said earlier we're going to be giving away 3 books.
3.
Three.
And they can take a choice of ebook or print. I have ordered a box full of the print from Chris, and he said it would probably arrive near the end of the month, the 27th or 28th, I think. So if you want print books as soon as I get them, then I can sign them and send them out.
Let's see. We got I like this. Not a cult. This is my convinced face. That's good stuff. All right. Well, I'm gonna give you the floor, and please, for everyone to enjoy.
Okay. Um, everybody decided they wanted to hear why there's a fighter in flames on the cover. So, so that's what I'm going to read. Chapter 45, and this is probably about 2/3 to 3/4 of the way through the book. There's a lot of other intense, interesting stuff that happens after this. But they've been sent out to fly a mission to cover for the exfiltration of a spec ops team. And so chapter 45. After suiting up in life, and I write in first person and I get into my characters' heads a lot. So because, and of course that's italicized in the text. So I'll just put I thought or something like that to when I've got internal dialogue going on here. After suiting up in life support, we filed into the armory. The staff issued us sidearms, shoulder holsters, and 3 additional power cells. We cinched survival vests and holsters on over our pressure suits and slipped the power cells into the suit's sealable thigh pockets. Our ground crews stood waiting when our group lumbered into the cavernous hangar. Branko and Magan and I accomplished the pre-flight inspection together, quickly but with attention to every detail. They strapped me into my cockpit with no more conversation than the required hand signals and responses. As she moved clear so I could lower the cockpit canopy, however, Branko patted my bulky shoulder. "Take good care of my ship, sir." I returned a grin. "You know I will, Chief." With my engines at idle, waiting to trail Mogan into the tunnel runway, I tugged at the harness strap across my chest. Its tightness pressed Graham's little leather bag into my breastbone. According to standard procedure, Mogan waited until we were airborne to forward our mission data. Text scrolled down the small monitor on my instrument console, and I stared. Mission call signs, Snatcher 1 and 2. Lifter call sign, Eagle Mother 3. Landing zone, LZ, for exfil lifter is High Valley and Stroma Mountains. 220 are in ranges north of Angwin City, Cairden. Coordinates, 57, 42, 33 north, 02, 11, 30 west. Time over target, 1957 hours local. I stared. Cairden, 200 ranges north of Angwin City. Isn't that where Derry's family has land? I visualized the map in the D main mess hall. Yeah, it's pretty close. Additional information followed. Secure frequencies and authentication codes for contacting the lifter. Weather conditions at the LZ, known threats in the area. Flying at the atmosphere's edge, we covered about 1,600 ranges. And ranges is what I'm using instead of miles. This is not Earth related, so they had their whole different measurement system and stuff like that. Flying at the atmosphere's edge, we covered about 1,600 ranges in little more than an hour, too high and with too much cloud cover between to distinguish the greens, browns, and craggy grays of the continent sliding by below. Watching the terminus advance, the line between daylight and dark, so it appeared to draw. I'm going to have to take off my glasses. I tried to print this in larger print so I really could hold it out, but it's not going to work. Yeah. Okay, where was I? Watching the terminus advance, the line between daylight and dark, so it appeared to draw tattered cloud masses of white into an indigo dye, I knew we'd reach the LZ at dusk. Shortly after we began our descent toward the surface of the Kalataka, and the Kalataka are a spec ops group that come from Ku's people, the Chalk. They started out as a kind of just a local militia and ended up becoming the most in-demand spec ops group in their arm of the galaxy. So shortly after we began our descent toward the surface, the Kalataka lifter pilot made contact on a designated frequency. Snatcher team, this is Eagle Mother 03. Snatcher team, do you copy? The pilot's voice sounded familiar even through my helmet speakers. 5 Talanoshi? The weathered Kalataka pilot in his distinctive flight suit of streaky browns and tans had been my favorite instructor and mentor during pilot training. I smiled behind my faceplate. Eagle Mother 03, this is Snatcher 1, Mogan responded. Initiating authentication query. I glanced at the small monitor in which I'd received our mission data earlier. It remained empty, waiting for authentication. Seconds ticked off on my display. 5, 6, 7. What if authentication isn't confirmed? I thought. Though our continuing descent brought Kierden's topography into clear view, we were still too far out for a visual sighting of the lifter. Questions careened through my mind. What if the codes have been compromised, like our base locations? What if some supremacy imposter is luring us into a trap? A single word glowed green on my monitor. Authenticated. I blew out my breath. Good. 4 minutes later, 50 ranges from the landing zone, I spotted the lifter cast against the western sun. Lead 2. Got a visual on the lifter, I said. Copy 2, Mogan replied. Eagle Mother, we have you on visual. Starting descent for a reconnaissance pass. Full spectrum sensors active, I requested of my flight computer. Targeting active. Check cannon charge. My charge light came up green. The ready chime rang in my speakers. My targeting reticle appeared. The Stroma Mountains weren't as high as the asphalts housing Grennan Base, and they weren't as heavily forested. The peaks jutted with naked gray rock, an outline against the sky that seemed familiar, but I couldn't place why. Most of the trees appeared to be conifers, scattered with the thinning rust color of a few deciduous ones. Dusk had filled the Highland Valley with deepening blue, but I wouldn't have bothered searching for the warriors who waited to be exfiltrated, even in full daylight. They knew too well how to become invisible. Night vision active, I said. The view through my faceplate changed, shifting to high-resolution shades of monochrome green. Loose trail formation 2, Mogan ordered. Roger, lead. I slid in 100 arm lengths behind him for a search circle. Inside, an arm lengths again is the equivalent of a yard. I slid in 100 arm lengths behind him for a searching circle inside the valley's rugged walls. A well-worn dirt track meandered into the valley through a pass between 2 peaks. My fighter's infrared sensors detected living heat. 5 ovals glowed on the ledge overlooking the pass. I gave a silent snort. Not Kalataka. Kalataka aren't so careless about concealment. Still, I called lead 2. Got 5 IR returns. My computer's dispassionate female voice said, returns too small to be humanoid, assessed to be wildlife. I see them too, Mogan said. Too small for humans. Something about the group of bright ovals nagged me. Rabbits would freeze until danger passed, but the returns were too big for rabbits. Big enough to be large deer or small humans, I assessed. Deer would flee, probably scatter. It's an enemy gunner's nest. The quiet voice I'd heard a few times before warns inside my skull. Lead, it's a gunner's nest, I said. Too stationary for wildlife. Acknowledged 2, Mogan answered. Eagle Mother, Snatcher 1. Hold off. Possible enemy at LZ. Snatcher 2, confirmed threat. The elliptical track for our search circles appeared in my retinal display, superimposed in bright blue around the valley's perimeter. Roger, lead. I rolled out a trail, arced across the valley, and slid in for my run along the projected track, 180 degrees across the valley from Mogan. The IR returns kept most of my attention as I accelerated. I searched the enclosing slopes and valley floor for other hidden threats as well. Rules of engagement required us to confirm uncertain targets before opening fire, which meant I could put down one burst near the glowing cluster. Lead, I said as I nudged my ship lower. I'm approaching the target. Copy 2, Mogan replied. Closing on the ledge overlooking the pass, I poised my hands on stick and throttles, ready for evasive maneuvers. I locked the targeting reticle on a bush about 4 arm lengths from the group and gave the energy cannon's firing stud a quick tap with my thumb. Shoot back, I dare you. The bush incinerated with a flash as I roared over. None of the bright ovals so much as twitched. Highly disciplined troops, probably Tafiki, I thought. They're not going to give away their position for a fighter. They're waiting for the lifter. If they're following SOP, there will be a second gun nest nearby. A chill tickled the nape of my neck. This means classified Spec Ops LZ's been compromised. Pulling up for a second pass, I said, lead, enemy confirmed. They're targeting the lifter. I watched Mogan across the circle advancing on the spot. I've got them, he said, and dipped low into the attack. Continuous fire. His cannon bursts lit up the dusk. Distinctly human figures flared like suns on the ledge where the 5 small ovals had been as I rolled in after Mogan. Yeah, concealed gunner's nest. Adrenaline heightened my breathing. My sight fixed the targeting reticle on the last 2 figures and my thumb held down the firing stud. My run past the ledge finished what Mogan had started. The last glowing shapes crumpled. Where's the other nest? I banked into a third circle. Looks like they're better concealment than their buddies. When we'd both made another arc around the valley and got no readings on any of our sensors, Mogan called, Eagle Mother, Snatcher 1. LZ is cleared for ingress. 2, stay sharp. With nearly silent engines and no running lights, the hover-capable craft became visible in my helmet faceplate only by its thermal signature. It wore shielding to block most of that, too. I didn't watch it descend. I kept scouring the valley, my head swiveling back and forth, back and forth. Where's the other gun position? The lifter needed fewer than 30 seconds to pick up the Kalataka team concealed in the valley. Though it wouldn't touch the ground, 30 seconds was plenty of time for an enemy to strike. In moments, the lifter's thermal glow, already rocketing clear of the valley floor, caught my eye. A symbol's red flare on my threat scope wrenched my attention from the lifter, half a heartbeat before I spotted flashes from the opposite slope. Medium altitude energy anti-aircraft artillery. I recognized the scatterburst pattern without the symbol on my scope. Such guns could take the lifter down well into its ascent. The first volley lanced white as lightning from its nest as Mogan approached it, its position in his circling. I had no time to wonder how the Supis had concealed their weapon. Lead, climb, guns at your 90, I called as he banked into a new attack, my thumb riding the firing stud. Too late. Mogan's fighter rocked in a scattershot hail of energy flares. Flames spouted high on his fuselage. I'm hit, Mogan yelled. Get clear, Lead, I shouted. I've got them. Got to draw their fire off Mogan. I glimpsed Mogan's ship climbing clear, following the swiftly receding lifters. Flames streaming from one wing lit the dusky sky like a comet. Shoving my throttles full open, my thumb squeezing my cannon's firing stud, I opened up on the second artillery sight. Scarlet energy like grasping fingers reached out for me out of the mountain's shadowed face. The image I'd seen in my recent dreams. Their staccato strike shook my fighter an instant before the artillery nest vaporized in a roiling fireball bright enough to illuminate the entire valley. I shot a glance over my shoulder to check for damage. Smoke billowed from behind my cockpit like blood in calm water. It spiraled ghostly wide against the deepening darkness. My fighter's nose dropped as it yawed left. Sweat beaded around my nose as I fought to pull my ship up to level it out. I swept a glance across my instruments. 6 damage lights flashed at me. My computer's female voice recited the extent of the damage with all the emotion of a duty list. One engine's power readout began a precipitous drop. Scat, I hissed. I could never make orbital velocity without full thrust capability from both transatmospheric engines. I wrestled, stick and throttle, teeth clenched. My heartbeat hammered in my ears. 2, Mogan shouted through my helmet speakers. Are you all right? I'm good, but my ship's losing power. My racing heartbeat left me quivering. I dragged in a deep breath, but my voice shook when I said, I'm putting distance between me and the Supis before I punch out. My fighter slewed sideways. Will it go into a flat spin? I shoved at the throttles, feeding more power to my remaining engine, my hands slick inside my glove. Mogan's voice seemed to come from a world away. Alerting Caesar. A mountain's ragged face, gray stone towering above a sparse timberline, loomed like a tilting wall in front of me. Dread loomed along with the peak, but I didn't have enough power left to bank around it, let alone go over it. I braced myself in my seat. Squeezing my eyes and mouth closed, I yanked the ejection ring with all my adrenaline-laced strength.
Very nice. All right. If you don't like that and you don't want to go buy the book now, you're dead inside. I don't know what's wrong with you.
And then the really important stuff happens.
No, thank you very much.
Really begins.
That was awesome. Do you want to pick the winners, or do you want to take the pressure off of you and have me select the winners?
You go ahead and do it, Jeremy.
All right, that's awesome. So, let's see. Before we do, before we do, if you're still in the audience, so this is only going to the live audience. So, when I say your handle, respond with either hard copy or ebook, and that way, so we know. And then if you can, friend Diane on Facebook, and so she can get the information from you and all that stuff, so she can send stuff out to you if you're not already friends with her on Facebook. Um, okay, so first of all, Yvonne, I can't find the thing, but Yvonne wanted to know what area of the country you were in, because she has some um, convention she'd like to see you at. So I think, are you in the Houston area?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
just outside Houston. Yeah.
Okay.
So, and
Um,
I was hoping to make it to FenCon this year too, and then life intervened there. So that's another one that's on my slate for next year. I think FenCon is one of the major ones that a lot of CKP folks went to this year, and I'm going, oh darn.
yeah.
So
All right. Well, with Yvonne clinched a copy with this
yay.
quote. So, Yvonne, you book select. We don't slut shame here. You can get a book. Please respond how you would like your book. Uh, all right.
And Mississippi
I,
by summer.
hey, Yvonne, tell us how you want your book. I don't
Ebook or print, Yvonne?
ebook or print. Next winner, while we're waiting on that, is Light German. Whoever Light, if that's their actual name or just their handle.
That's her
Uh,
handle.
okay,
I know who she is.
okay, and
Hi,
then
Liz.
Yvonne wants an ebook because I think she's running out of
Okay.
room. All right, so
I can relate to that.
Yvonne ebook and see Light German. Okay, but tell me what you want. Hardcover, good choice, good choice.
Okay.
And then
Well, that'll
last,
be print. They're the trade paperback, but it'll be like, and Liz, she was actually one of the winners with the book launch for running.
oh,
So she's racking them up.
she's gonna collect the whole set. All right, and this won it for me, not a cult. This is my convinced space. So that Jimbo guy has won the third and final copy.
Okay.
That Jimbo guy, if you're not already, please get in contact with her on Facebook, and he also wants an ebook.
Okay.
All
All
right.
right.
So uh, let's see. So you got
So the ebooks I can probably send out Friday, since the book goes live on Friday.
okay, cool, awesome. So with that being said, let's where can we're gonna wrap it up now. Where can people find you, whether it's online or in person? You said you've got an in-person book launch coming up.
Yeah, and that'll be December 1st. It'll be a Thursday evening, and I was just talking to it'll be at a courtyard here in the Kima area, which is right down here on the coast. It's just up the road from me a few miles. But for a lot of the people that here in the area, that's probably the more central location.
Mhm.
So I kind of just talked to them today, and it'll be from 7 to probably 8:30 or so, and I'll put out an event on Facebook about that. Um, yeah, and that's one reason I wanted to get a box full of the print books too, so that we could have them available, and plan to do a little bit of signing there, and probably do another reading, Q&A, whatever,
Okay.
refreshments. So,
Are you going to be doing any conventions or anything like that?
not for the rest of this year. I'm definitely planning on Superstars. That'll probably be my first one next year, immediately followed by Life, the Universe, and Everything in Provo, Utah. And that's kind of in a way my home convention, because I was attending Brigham Young University when that was created, and I know a lot of the people who were involved in creating that.
Mm,
And I haven't been there for quite a while. So now that I have some street cred, I need to go back. So that'll be the week after Superstars, and then I'm planning on Fantasy in March. I've got
I'll see you there.
membership bought for that, and most of the plans made for that. And then later in the year, I'm really looking at Dragon Con. People send me some of the ones that I really need to get to.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
know I'm not going to make it to Liberty Con because the odds were not in my favor
it's a good one.
for
Next
getting a membership.
year, yeah, next year
Mhm.
if you can make Liberty Con, that's a good one.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm not going to make it to that because I missed out on getting.
oh
But
yeah.
the Factory Con definitely next year, and I think I've got a couple others in my calendar. But yeah, if there's any others that I really need to get to, please message me or something, and we'll see what we can do. I had been planning on Factory Con, and in fact, I'm supposed to be out at 20 books
Mm,
right now, and it's probably a good thing my plans for that fell through too, because here I am with these deadlines, and there's no way I could be meeting the end of November deadline if I were out there at 20 books. So, yeah. Yay, Marissa. Yeah, it'd be great to see you at Superstars and Fantasy. More people I get to meet face to Marissa, have I ever met you face to face? Is this your first time coming to Superstars or?
let's see. Well, here's another while we wait. So glad to be here. I need to jump into the class. I'm late for. Congrats on the new book.
Thanks, Monique.
Let's
And
see.
she's a longtime Superstars friend.
Let's see. It's my second, but I think we were ships passing into the night last time. Now,
Probably.
just so you know, Marisa is my wife, and she's in the next room.
Right. Yes. Yes. I did know that. Yeah.
Um, so, and you'll probably, especially from Yvonne will probably send you some conventions that she wants you to go to, if you're not already going to them. But all right,
Yeah.
to all those people that won the book, please, if you're not already friends with Diane on Facebook, contact her on Facebook, and give her the information she needs to send you the books that you won. And Diane, I will just to verify, I'll send you the names that I selected and
Okay.
Messenger and stuff. Um,
Okay.
so with that being said, we're gonna let me do some promos of my own. And so after this book, when is the projection for the third book?
The third one comes out on December 30th. That's the one I'm doing galleys for right now.
Okay.
And book 4 is slated for February 10th, which is in the middle of Superstars.
Okay.
And then after that, Chris is giving me more time for the last 2. So we haven't set dates for those. Like I said, I do have some editing work I need to catch up on for one of Dave's former clients. And so anyway, but yeah,
Okay.
so we'll see what Chris ends up with for the last 2. That's up to him.
Well, thank you very much for coming on board here. And if you want to come back anytime, wink, wink, your next book. If you want to come back on here, you're welcome to.
Love to.
Yeah, we can't get enough of our authors, so I'll be glad to have you back and talk about that book once it comes out or as it comes out. Before we leave, let me promote some of our affiliated YouTube channels. We've got the Dudes in Hyperspace, who just had an episode come out this past week, I believe, where they talk about everything. There's no, it was one of their loosey-goosey episodes where they talk about a little bit about everything. And it was very interesting. Of course, they're going to talk about football because it's football season. Casey Zell, the writer life, she just did her Factory Con video where she's interviewing different authors, showing you what's going on there, showing her what she's doing at Factory Con. It's a pretty good video. Go check that one out. I will eventually put out like a little clip video from FactoryCon. No real interviews or anything like that. It will just be clips and stuff. So and this past week on the CKP YouTube channel, we had another episode of Future Books drop, and that is featuring Mr. Mark Wandre, who has his latest book that has come out, Blood in the Water. And in for Chris, Kevin Eikenberry talks about the upcoming and releases for CKP, and does a FactoryCon action report. And speaking of some of the books that are out now for CKP, let's see. Latest releases are the Eminence Protocol of the Protocol War, Book 3, Kevin Eikenberry. Of course, Blood in the Water by Mark Wandry. The Impossible Moon by Mike Jack Stombos. And The Prince Awakens by Fred Hughes. Go check them out. And of course, upcoming books this Friday. You can catch this lovely gem, Mountains of the Gods, coming out this Friday. And like I said, if that reading didn't excite you, you're dead inside, and I don't know what's wrong with you. Go check it out. Buy the book. Buy a hard copy. Buy the ebook. It'll be great.
Get them on Friday.
Yep.
Yeah. When I saw the cover art for this, I'm going, oh my gosh, the artist just nailed it. So that's what I read.
And very important for the authors. Any author that you want, I said this at the top of the show, I'm going to say it again. Go to Diane's website, sign up for a newsletter so you can keep up, because it sounds like people are going to be bugging her to add on appearances and conventions. You can keep up with her book releases and learn more about her. And of course, we'll have her back on here from time to time to promote anything she wants to. I'm
having a little bit of difficulty right now getting the newsletter connected with the website, and I'm having to work with my website designer on that. I'm totally IT illiterate, so we're having to do that. But there is a contact, so you can definitely email me from there, and so feel free to do that.
And again, you can also catch her on Facebook. And again, those who got the free books, please contact either contact her there or on her website. And of course, Patreon. And you can find all of her books on Amazon or the Chris Kennedy website found here. And for all of you watching tonight and in the future, thank you very much. Without you, I wouldn't have a show. So I appreciate you very much. And we will catch you all next time. Diane, thank you very much for coming on. And
thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. And we look forward to having you on the show again. And with that, I will say good night.
Night.